everybody.
What up?
Everybody
What up?
checking in on our Facebook and our YouTube. This is Leonard Step with MCU ATL, and boy, do we have a lot to discuss. Last two episodes 3 and 4 of WandaVision. So I'm here alongside the rest of the panel. We've got Jason, Kelly,
Hey.
we've got Mo, we've got Greg, and we have Bliku. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good. Doing
Yeah.
good.
Good, excellent. For those of you guys who didn't get to check in our last broadcast, we are MCU ATL. We are an Atlanta-based Marvel Cinematic Universe fan club, and we started out in 2018 doing movie screenings as well as experiences for Marvel Cinematic Universe's fans. So that's what we've been doing, with the exception of 2020, of course, which didn't go quite well universally. I guess the our universe's 1218 version of the snap, I guess. So, but yeah, and I'm also I started this thing with my buddy Greg and Marcus as well. So we just it's an expensive hobby right now, so we're hoping to pick it up a little bit in 2021. Speaking of, some of you guys have requested or asked about our shirts from last week, and a few of us are wearing them this week. So they're our Timeless Magic MCU ATL shirts, and we have them available for sale now this week on our website. Check it out at 1218gear.com. So yeah, they're cool shirts, and they help us stay live and produce our show. So keep doing what we do. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes. Let me make sure that everybody's here. I got another guest, Darius. Boom.
Yay! Hey.
Hey there. What's up?
No mucho.
Gang is all here now, so we're all good. So yeah, we're going to start off. We're going to discuss episodes 3 and 4, and I must say, I haven't been excited about getting up at 3 a.m. practically ever, but on a weekly basis, I am up and I am tuned in to WandaVision, and it hasn't disappointed thus far. So I will say that I'll kick it off by saying with these last two episodes, I've been thoroughly entertained, and I thank Marvel Studios crew for putting out such a great show. So in general, I my reviews, I give them 2 thumbs up for the last couple of episodes, and it's been a great ride. So yeah, anybody care to add, expound in general about their opinions on the show?
I mean, these are getting me through those 3 a.m. watches, but I feel like there's just no way that I would be able to wait to watch it because of spoilers and excitement. So definitely needed. The 3 a.m. watches are definitely needed. I think we've really enjoyed coming together in the middle of the night to watch them. It's been a lot of fun.
I think this is the first week that I stayed up to 3 a.m. I know Kelly did it from jump. I'm usually a night person, but because I have to work in the morning, I never stay up that late when I have to work. But because of all the hype surrounding episode 4, I was like, I have to stay up, and it was worth it. And I think it was me, Kelly, and Leonard just stayed up to about 4:30, just chatting with each other,
Yeah.
talking about how mind blown we were from the episode itself. It was definitely worth staying up, to where now I'm planning my sleep schedule throughout the week now, so I can do it again and stay up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've been waiting for it to for daylight to break first before watching the episode. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not an indictment or any kind of judgment on anybody. I just it's one of those things where it's I work on Friday morning, and it's a nice little treat for myself after I get off of work. To the first thing I do actually is watch it, and then today I rewatched episode 3 and 4, and actually got my daughter into it. And I asked her today, I said, "Hey, do you want to keep watching it?" Because when she watched it, like when I was watching it, she was on her tablet and she kept looking up and kept like sort of seeing what's going on. I said, "Do you want to watch it? Because it feels like," and she's just like, "I just want to know what's going on." And I said, "Let's go ahead and watch it." And she watched episodes 3 and 4 with me, and she's into it. So I mean, that's good. So that tells you right there. If 3 and 4 were the ones that were just like, "Yep, I want to go ahead," and it keeps her attention, that's a thumbs up.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're fine.
Yeah, I was. I'm a vampire anyway, so being up at 3 a.m. is not a problem for me. Some people call me the daywalker at this point because they're like, "How the hell are you still awake?" I'm like, "I just gotta work. I gotta keep moving. I keep moving, keep moving." So, yeah, walking up and starting with episode 3, I instantly loved the Brady Bunch / Partridge Family vibe that was generating there, and I'm like, oh man, I used to love watching this stuff as a kid. So hats off to the great Sherwood Schwartz if he's out there somewhere up in heaven watching over the show. Maybe, I don't know. He's probably loving it. But yeah, there's a lot that's going to be fun for us to dig into as we proceed with the show.
Yeah, so speaking of that, yeah, that's a great kickoff to episode 3. Definitely the roll in with the whole Partridge Family vibe, and the very corny, punny introduction, which I absolutely love. Talking about we've got something cooking. Obviously, they're talking about the which we find out the twins about to drop at the end of the episode. And so that was I was entertained by that. And the whole introduction with the doctor, who was pretty much in my opinion useless, but I understand that they're playing off of that whole character thing. They don't go into much detail with the the actual technicalities of childbirth, so it's just kind of that whole which yes, thank God. So that was just kind of like a funny little intro, but then we get that whole first kind of big eerie moment with Herb out there when he walks the doctor out, and yeah, that was kind of strange, that whole scenario. And I think of course it was a symbol of him trying to break in and get to our favorite superpower couple. But yeah, so that was what's up, Kelly?
Well, actually, just popping off. I don't know if he necessarily was trying to break in as much as it's what he's being told to do in that world. Because right now he's being told cut the hedges. So that's what he's doing in that world. And I think that what it is just it wound up moving into it, because we kind of get into a little bit of it in episode 4, but I think he's been in the world the whole time. He's not trying to get in, because we learned that there's only been one person that got in the force field in episode 4. Right. Trying not to throw out spoilers. So I think that that's what he was doing. So yeah, I've got a little bit of comic book knowledge to throw down for that episode, but I'll wait till it's my turn to give those little facts and figures.
Yeah. As we go through the episode, we'll come up on those moments, and I'm sure we can certainly insert those for sure. But yeah, as far as I mean, it was definitely a strange moment. There are a few of those that stick out during the episode, um, and I'm just reading some of the comments. Of course, we're gonna get to a few of these later, um, but the whole baby thing, which it's been about from the beginning, for the children. So obviously, we get into that from the very beginning, and the whole naming thing, of Tommy and Billy. I thought that was pretty neat. The Shakespeare dropped the all the world's a stage. All the men and women are merely players. So I thought that was really cool. Symbology for the scenario that Wanda and Vision are in right now. Um, so yeah, what stood out to you guys about the first part of this episode? I guess mainly.
The Walking Dead. That's what
Yeah.
it made me think about when she woke up, or I guess de-dusted or whatever you want to call it, and she's in the hospital. And that's just the vibes that it gave me, because you know how when Rick woke up and like everything is just what the hell is going on. And that's what I got at the very beginning. It was scary. I think she did very well acting wise, because I feel like I would have been the same way. As far as like how I feel, devastated. Dude, her mom is gone now. So
Yeah, and all that
yeah,
information
look,
at once too. That's the other thing, is that all that
right.
information at once is crazy. Like I really appreciate it, because obviously they touched on it a little bit on Far From Home, but um, they really show you, like, on the ground level, what would it have been like to just blink back into existence. Like, that particular part of the episode, even
Mhm.
with all the reveals in that episode during the course of it, that part of the episode was so just amazing to me, because as all of us have been watching the MCU, and we've seen actually how these questions have come up. I think a lot of people have done parodies where they're like, okay, what if you were flying a plane and you were dusted, and what if you were this? Like, so many people, like, if you were sitting as a passenger in a plane, if you reappeared, do you reappear up in the air and you basically just drop down? Like, what happens? And so obviously there's not really obviously there was a lot of tragedy and death right after that. I can imagine that even people coming back into existence to then die is a possibility, just based on that. So it was interesting to see that all these people, when they were reappearing, they reappeared where they last were. Like, that's it. They reappeared wherever they were, whether it was on a gurney, whether it was on like, they just popped back into existence. And that would be insane.
Absolutely. Which we accidentally skipped to episode 4,
Yeah.
which we're still on 3, but it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna, we're
Yeah.
gonna those are all valid
I
though.
was like, wait, did I blip out for an hour?
Right.
Snap.
Oh no.
That's what it felt
Uh,
like. That's exactly what it felt like. Everybody else was on the screen. That's what it felt like.
I
Is you were in the middle of
yeah.
a conversation about episode 3, and I'm talking to you about episode 4. Yep.
I blipped. It's
Yeah.
fine.
I
but
think with jumping back to episode 3, seeing Herb glitching like that, and then the whole, I guess, Vision not even caring about the doctor knowing whether he had super speed or not. I guess maybe the doctor was just so oblivious to it, because he literally picked him up from the house and just zoomed off, and the doctor was like, "Oh, we got her really fast." Like, I don't know if the doctor was just oblivious to it or whatever the case may be, but like I said before, I'm a fan of the slow build or the slow burn. So the fact that the majority of obviously episode 1, 2, and then the majority of 3 was still on that same, happy sitcom X, Y, and Z, and there were little things here or there. Herb looked directly at Vision as he was sawing through this brick wall, like, just looked directly at him, and it didn't seem glitchy. It seemed like more on the scary side, more on the like horror side, the way he did it. And
Yeah.
then even after, when he walked the doctor out after Wanda gave birth to the twins, the doctor said, "Hey, we're not going to be to our vacation anymore." you know, you can never really escape here. And then kind of gave Vision like a 1-2 stare and then left. When Vision was like, what? Like, even then, didn't seem glitchy. It seemed purposefully horror, purposely scary. The music changed, and then you see Agatha and Herb over there talking about Geraldine. Vision walks up to them, and they have their back and forth, and Herb is about to spoil something, obviously, for us and for Vision as well, before Agatha stops him, and then she leaves. I love how in that they talked about the power outage, and she says Ralph looks better in the dark. That to me, the fact that she keeps bringing up Ralph and we never see him, I'm 1,000% sure it's Mephisto that is involved in this some way, shape, or form, because we have never seen Ralph. She always makes some type of pun about him being unattractive or something of that nature. So I just feel like that's what we're going to some extent. Mephisto's going to be the big bad that leads into Doctor Strange, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But still, with everything that took place there, with Vision saying what he said, Agatha saying what she said to Herb, and then talking to Vision, it still leads me to believe that Vision is having his own separate experience from Wanda, so she's not necessarily controlling his reality. I believe that she's controlling all of this, and to some extent, but Vision himself is a separate entity, so to speak, because he's going off on his own adventure, so to speak, having his own experiences, X, Y, and Z. And every time that he mentions or is about to say something to Wanda about, hey, something ain't right, something's wrong, she snaps him back out of it, and he just goes back to regular Vision.
Yeah. I agree with that. What I think what popped out about episode 3 to me is some certain jewelry choices that they made. One of them being the sword pendant on Geraldine / Monica, and also Agnes's / Agatha, because I still truly believe it's Agatha Harkness, is wearing a Three Witches brooch, which either could be in reference to Macbeth with the Three Witches, because that's where that comes from, but also there are 3 witches in Humans that are the villains, and it also could represent her being with Mephisto and her coven. So there's certain options, and I don't know why those seem to bust out, but like even Geraldine's outfits were in her photon colors, in that red, that blue and white, and then she's got the sword symbol and all of that kind of stuff. Like there was a lot. Now that they're in color, there's a lot more. There's a lot more outfit hints and clues that I found really interesting for episode 3. Obviously, it's all about family, which involves the twins. The twins also, again, came from Mephisto. And even the in the original comics, when Wanda was pregnant, no one knew that she was going to give birth to twins either. So that's kind of that reference of where they didn't know that they were expecting twins, but obviously we kind of all knew that was going to happen. So I liked episode 3 for just, again, the amount of like hints and throwbacks to the comics that they're giving, because it's really interesting what they're trying to do, but I kind of think House of M is going to happen here.
Pretty
in
sure.
some way, yeah. Which the start of House of M came from the twins going missing.
Yeah, I was thinking about I had somebody pointed out something out to me about the way Vision's been acting, and I sat down and looked at it. I was like, oh my goodness, this lady's right. Vision does not act like the Vision in this show at all. He's been completely off kilter, doing crazy things when in reality Vision's always calm and collected.
Yeah.
And I'm always wondering, is the Vision actually there? And and then we go later on into episode 4, we see a very big clue about that. And you're like, okay, yeah, there's just no way we could, like, he could entirely be there. But Vision's actions are very completely out of his character. And then, leading to what we see, wonderfully done, by the way, from two different perspectives of Wanda's final interaction with Geraldine, and then hmm? Oh, sorry. Yeah, her final interaction, and how that plays out with how they oh geez, sorry, my brain's not working.
All right,
I
uh,
just
we're all recovering
kind of what
from.
Darius was saying though, like even when you go back
yeah,
to the beginning, like Vision didn't save the guy that was choking until Wanda told him. Whereas,
Mhm.
like,
right.
is that what Vision? Wouldn't he, do that on his own? I'm starting. Well, I've been questioning it, but after the last, little episode, it kind of made it to me where he might not really be there like we're led to think he is.
Well, if Wanda's making all of this stuff up anyway, like, because I mean, we don't know that yet, but they're hinting at it, then maybe that's like her ideal version of Vision instead of, what we know.
Yeah. Well, I want to throw back to things that I didn't notice until I rewatched it. Episode 1, the date August 23rd is the start of the storyline in the Avengers issue 238. So you kind of have to mix it up. But August 23rd, issue 238 is where they first start doing the storyline of bringing Vision back into the comics, and that involved the body of Simon Williams, aka Wonder Man. And I know I keep bringing up, the Grim Reaper, which is Simon's brother, and all this other stuff, but they're definitely hinting at that because in episode 2, the last of that story arc is also on the time of the watch, 242. And I don't think that that was a coincidence either. And so I'm starting to believe that this is something involving, like, so it's got to be something involving where Wanda was trying to bring Vision back, obviously. And it might involve some darker forces, because why pick Westview of all places to go? But yeah, this is definitely not Vision.
I
Like,
feel
you guys
I will
are
say
right.
actually I will say it's actually really interesting. A couple of things from our last stream. Leonard actually did make that observation. I want to give him a shout out. He did make that observation about Vision not acting the way that he normally does. Like, he's not as stoic. He's very campy and very. So this is, I think, there's two parts to that. I think actually him working autonomously is to some extent what Vision actually, there is an element of Vision because again he is questioning the reality, whereas the other players are not. Everybody else is sort of just in it. I mean, there's obviously Agnes is still the X factor in this. There's a part of me that still is not 100% sold on the Mephisto theory, just because I think that that's the easiest sort of like, here you go, this is the comic book transfer, like to this. And I know that the MCU tends to try to flip the script a little bit, so that's the reason why I'm not sold yet on. I think Agnes is a key player in this, and she is not, because just jumping to episode 4 real quick, when they start identifying everybody that's there, Agnes is not identified. They didn't say, hey, this person is this person. And even actually when they have the board up, everybody's driver's license is attached to the file. Everybody except for Agnes. They haven't identified her yet. So I think that she is a key player in that. The other thing actually that I think also uh, is interesting is, this is going back to episode 3, is when they are aware of what's going on, specifically actually when Vision is asking, hey, what do you mean, like they call out Monica for being an outsider. It's in a weird way almost like I got the vibe that they didn't necessarily want to leave. Like, they sort of felt like they were in that world and they were not prisoners as much as sort of like, like, why out somebody that you were just sort of like, hey, they don't belong here. if that's your way out. Like if you can get out and you can find a way out, why would you out that person? Why would you be like, hey, watch that person? That person's a suspect. They out that person, and it almost feels like maybe perhaps, this is there is some cooperation on their part. It'd be interesting to see if Westview in itself is the town in itself is for the FBI one of those places where they go and put witness protection people. Who knows?
Well, we got a comment from Eddie. Eddie actually believes that they were afraid, and I somewhat agree with that. I mean, the thing about it is, not jumping, too far forward, because want to finish delving into 3 before we really get into 4. But it's just their part. That's their reality at this point. And so, I think there would be some fear about the change in and the environment changing, and also outsiders. So, we'll see. We'll get into that a little bit more though.
My only thing though, going back to what Darius and Greg had said about Vision, I guess Kelly said a part of it too. I don't feel like he's not acting how we've seen him act. Yes, up until Age of Ultron, well, I guess that's when we started to see him. In Age of Ultron, he was very, robotic, very Vision. In Civil War, when he's after the airport fight, he's holding Wanda, and Rhodey tells him to aim at Falcon's glider, and he does, but he misses. When they fast forward to the hospital when Rhodey's getting worked on, Stark asked him, what happened? And he said, I became distracted. And then he said, Stark said, I didn't think that was possible. And Vision said, me neither. That little nugget there. And then in Infinity War, when we see them in Switzerland, the conversation that they're having when he's asking Wanda to stay, he's stumbling over his words. He's fluttering. He's being emotional, so to speak. That there as well. And then even going forward in that same movie, when Doctor Strange asks, where's Captain America or whatever case may be, and Stark says, Vision would know where he is, but he's off the grid. He's turned off his transponder. He's evolving into something. Vision had always been something different because he was a combination of Jarvis, Tony, the Mind Stone, and Bruce. Mm-hmm. So he was never just a robot. He was always evolving, at least from my point of view, from those things I just mentioned. He was always evolving, always picking up on things that were around him and that becoming a part of his programming or his psyche. So even though he's in Westview and he's not as, Vision as we remember him, it doesn't seem off course to me because he's just doing what's around him. He's picking up on all this stuff that's happening and it's becoming part of his day-to-day, so to speak.
So I think the thing is what we're picking up on is just how he literally has to be told to do something to do it. Because that's kind of the situation. It's not he's immediately acting or he's kind of almost acting on his own accord. Wanda kind of has to say, yes, go do that, or no, don't do this. Because the only time that he kind of goes against her is towards the neighborhood watch meeting. But at the same time, going to the neighborhood watch meeting is basically to be normal and to be a part of the group. Something that I think, why they did seem afraid, like all the neighbors seemed afraid, is they're definitely in on knowing that this isn't the real world. And a lot of the theories that I've seen online, I won't necessarily say that I agree with them, though they tie into my overarching theory, is there's a hint in, where in one of the previews, Agnes says, why are you here? Don't you know, basically like, you're dead, to Vision, and starts laughing. And it's kind of the running theory that some of these people might be dead. So they might, either their souls are there, they're reanimated somehow, something's within that aspect, which is why, like, I personally think Mephisto's there. There's some other hints that I missed in episode 1 and 2 that also kind of tie into House of M and Mephisto's name being on props, but in general, there's something chaos magic involved that isn't of those stones, but maybe those the Infinity Stones help create this magic after Thanos.
Interesting theory.
Well, so being that, Eddie points out that Wanda rewinds time whenever he asks questions about this reality. I think that, that's of course a recurring thing, and it seems like it goes a little bit deeper than that. With this episode 3, all of our interactions with people outside of WandaVision's household are extremely awkward, and especially when it comes to it's just, I guess it ties back to me to she's going through labor, she's affecting the environment, she's pregnant, she's infecting the environment with every reaction to the twins within her, and I feel like that awkwardness is seeping into the characters around her, and that's why everybody's just acting really, really strangely. Everybody that we only see 4 characters outside of the household this episode. So that's a thought there. So let's go ahead and start getting into everyone's favorite episode, with episode 4. Extremely mind-blowing, and I think that it helped cleared up a lot of stuff, from the standpoint of a lot of people were confused about what's going on and try to figure it out. I think that this episode really did a good job at bringing everybody up to speed and tying up a few theories, not everything, because I feel like they didn't really give us as much as we thought they did. So yeah, let's start out with that reverse snap, the Hulk snap. Really,
Can we? There's a comment in the chat from Kelly. I don't know if you want to put that up there or not, but he makes a good point. So you might.
All right, let's put it up there. Let's see. Want to reset the entire Marvel universe? She can rewind time and start over. So what we might be seeing is her seeing what she didn't when Magneto wasn't good, Dad. She is in complete control. She's a twin, if I'm not correct, with Quicksilver.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would disagree. Maybe they'll bring Magneto in the future. And no, I don't believe the entire Marvel universe was reset, because just because of the events. The only thing that really could have done that would be the Infinity Gauntlet and all the stones together, if Thanos willed it to do that, or if Hulk or Stark attempted to do that. So I think we're pretty much on the same continuity. Right now.
I think so. I think actually it's the episode does touch on that, where the bubble that they're in is basically energy, the same residual energy that came as a result of the Big Bang Theory. So in essence, they're saying that bubble is its own universe. It really is everything actually that she has in there is of her creation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that obviously anything that actually goes into it, part of when everything transforms, whether it's the guy who's coming in actually through the tunnels transforms into a beekeeper, or or even actually the tether turns into a jump rope, anything that goes into that bubble gets converted actually to whatever Wanda's sort of interpretation of that universe is, and to her interpretation it is actually a sitcom. That's the reason why even actually when they ask hey, what is it? What are you seeing on the TV? She's just like, it's a sitcom. It's what it is. Everything how it's composed and everything, it's a sitcom. That's what we're looking at here. This bubble, this reality is a reality that would be what we see, what people on the outside would see as a sitcom. What people, when we watch TV and we're looking at that world and that universe, people in it don't know that they're in a sitcom per se, but we perceive them as being. We know that they're actors. We know that they are set pieces. We know all of this other stuff. I do want to make one callback to episode 3. The doctor's name was Nielsen.
Yeah.
Right.
Stan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think going back on the on the reality that they're in, I think it's really important to point out episodes 4, the real MVP Darcy, when she's talking about the CMBR radiation. This ties into what you're saying, Mo. That's the energy from the Big Bang. We all know in the Marvel Cinematic Universe where the Big Bang, what came out of the Big Bang. That would be the Infinity Stones. We know that the Mind Stone is what gave Wanda her abilities, her powers. So therefore, every time she uses her abilities, there would be technically the Big Bang energy that's emitted from there. So that's why we see that, certainly. Yeah, so speaking of Darcy and MVP, they wouldn't get her a cup of coffee. I would literally build her a Starbucks. 'Cause,
Going back to the stones too, though, the 3 commercials that we see, they all tie back to 3 different stones. So I'm wondering, and see, episode 4 didn't have a commercial, so we have 9 episodes. I'm wondering if we're only going to have 5 commercials.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, I personally, I'm more on the side of the commercials relate to her experiences trained than the Infinity Stones, but I definitely see the potential for that theory also.
Yeah.
Going back to actually a comment from earlier, Eddie asked, what if Vision leaves the bubble? Which is a good question. I did.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Given what we actually see of Vision in this episode, and of certain revelation that they kind of show you, you're like, okay, basically, since are we allowed to talk spoilers on this show or at all? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead.
I think
see. I just want to make sure we see Vision's actual body, what it looked like following his unfortunate battle with Thanos, Mind Stone ripped out and everything. So basically, I don't think Vision can't leave at all, or else in no way, shape, or form can he leave that particular bubble, since we don't think he is actually entirely there. And it's kind of jacked up, actually.
But I will actually, to comment on that real quick, it is very interesting. So Vision was a product of the Mind Stone. Mm-hmm. So is Scarlet Witch. Right. So in essence, she is, since the Mind Stone no longer exists, and she is the residual, she's the remainder of that. She is the one powering him. So if he left the bubble, that's not to say that he would die, but she's basically, in essence, his battery. And that's the reason why I think, to an extent, I don't think he's a manifestation. I think he is himself. It's just with the influence of Wanda. And what she's seeing is probably that vision that she sees is, no pun intended, is her, her powering him, basically, and him working and sort of autonomously, because again, he's also the main he's also the person that every episode so far, even at the end of episode 3, when they are like, hey, what are we going to watch for TV? He's still like uneasy about what's going on. Like, he is still aware that something is actually not fitting right. So that's why I think it is actually him, but with a lot of influence from her.
Yeah, I think we talked about this on Friday, Leonard and Kelly, in our little group chat at like 5 o'clock in the morning. It always boggled my mind, like, because I'm like, Vision is having his own separate experiences, so Wanda is not completely in control of him. But my whole thing was, and I think it showed that when at the end of the episode where she saw Vision as how he was at the end of Infinity War. I think his physical body is there. That however it left Wakanda and got to wherever it got to, now it's in Westview, and Wanda is, like Mo said, is powering it to some extent of what her last memory of Vision, hence why he still has the Mind Stone in his head. But he is having his own experiences, X, Y, and Z. I do not think he could leave the bubble. I don't think that he could walk out the bubble. I don't even think if he knew the bubble existed that he would even try to leave, because I don't think he has any memory of him dying. I don't think he has any memory of Thanos, anything up to Wakanda. I don't think he has any memories of that at all. He knows something is wrong. So she's powering him to an extent, but he's still, like I said, he's still having his own separate experiences. He's his own, like, wait, this ain't right. And even going back to episode 1, when Dr. Hart was choking and Mrs. Hart kept saying, stop it, stop it. But she was saying it to Wanda. She never once looked at Vision. She was saying it to Wanda, and Wanda had to inform Vision to do his thing, whatever case may be.
I need to rewatch that episode, because I actually, when I saw the episode, and again, I only saw it the one time, I thought she was actually talking to him, as in the doctor, not actually to either of them, because she looked like she was just sort of like looking straight ahead and like, ha ha ha, stop it, ha ha ha, stop it. Like it was almost like a record skip. Like she was like, she didn't know where to move forward. Like I'd love to rewatch it and actually and obviously be corrected if I'm wrong, but I thought she was actually talking to him as he was choking, and sort of like it was a weird loop feedback, and it wasn't until Wanda acknowledged Vision and was just like, hey, go ahead and actually and save him, that actually it broke the like Wanda basically had to go back and be like, okay, no, this is something is actually, it's almost like a record scratch, it needs to be reset again.
Do you feel like the other people in the town kind of have an idea of what's going on? Do you know what I mean? Because there's been like times that, like, I forget the guy's name, but black dude with the fro, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, he was kind of almost starting to tell something, and then they stopped him from doing it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wonder if some of the other people are in on it, and they know what's going on outside of Wanda and Vision, obviously.
Well, it's kind of what I was saying before in episode 3 when they were talking. They're like, wait, she's in there with just Wanda, and
Right.
And even the Herb cutting the stone with his cutting the stone wall with his cutter. They kind of know, but I don't think that they would be able to exist. I don't think all of them will be able to exist outside that bubble.
Right.
The whole point is we need to know exactly why she went to Westview of all places, and like in episode 4, we find out that like the people of Eastview have no knowledge of Westview whatsoever, but clearly it's on a map. They know it's there. There's also an interesting thing about the fact that the cop car, the 966 on the cop car, the 9 is just a inverted 6. So there's no differentiation between those two numbers, like there normally is on any other thing. But that's going into some biblical knowledge, but that number has also been popping up through all the other episodes. But the whole point is something is creating that force field, and those people can't get out. So I think it's more like they live in the bubble, but there's certain times where if Wanda's focusing on something else, they're not necessarily in her full control. So they kind of have that freedom, but they know they can't leave. And that's even a play in the end of episode 3 with the doctor, where he couldn't get to Bermuda because something kept happening that prevented him from leaving.
I think
Uh.
you're definitely right about that aspect. We from episode 4, I believe we know that, of course, Westview is a actual place. It's an actual physical location, and then we see that Wanda, she is creating this bubble of reality that's there, which according to um, the holographic table that they review in the sword response facility, is actually her area of effect is shaped like a hexagon,
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. So then on top of that, with the we see that they're actually real people that are in the real reality, that were in this town, residents of this town. They're trapped. They're in there. They're trapped, and they're mentally influenced by Wanda's powers. So if they do go out, if they could escape, then they would probably revert back to their normal selves, uh, with the exception of Dot, who doesn't appear on the board at all. No image, and of course, if there's no image, there's no driver's license, but as well as
Agnes.
Agnes,
Yeah.
Agnes, which she's
Right.
on there, but she doesn't have any sort of identification. Which I think the whole Dot thing is more just absolutely freaky than anything, because she's not on any of the sword databases for facial recognition. She
Mhm.
doesn't exist. So that's the crazy part there.
I think that's a
I
red
think
herring, though.
with the
Yeah.
with okay, so Wu came from San Francisco because someone he has in a witness protection program
Mhm.
disappeared into Westview. But these
Yes.
cops who are from Eastview have never heard of Westview. Westview never exists. But when we see Westview at the end of episode 3 from the outside, there is a light on in the house. In the house that's like far off past the sign. Somebody lives in Westview. Some people exist in Westview. So it begs the question is how long has Wanda had this field, bubble, whatever the case may be, up? Even more so as they go to identify the people in Westview, they don't mention Dottie or Agnes, but we don't hear about the person, whatever witness that Wu is looking for. We know that person never gets identified. We don't know if that person's still in there or not, whatever the case may be. With that specifically,
Or it could be actually one of those two people right there, because that's another thing. Actually, they don't identify the witness that they were looking for as male or female. They just said, "Hey, there's a witness actually on the protection program," and it could be actually that's specifically designed to be that way. Maybe Agent Wu is not giving off to that information to say, "Oh yeah, this lady is in the witness protection program," and Agnes, being the player that she is, maybe.
yeah.
So we have
There's a guy in the comments, Jacoby Copeland says, "What do you guys think about Agnes? I heard she may not be what she seems." I guess that's more Kelly's area of
Yeah,
expertise.
well, I don't even think at this point. I think it's pretty much common knowledge. We know Agnes is going to probably be Agatha Harkness. We just don't know in what capacity she's going to be. Is she going to be a friend or a foe? Because it's kind of like with the Skrulls in Captain Marvel. We all believed the Skrulls were going to be the big bads leading up to the movie, and then we find out they're not. So the thing is that Agatha is a friend of Wanda in the comics, but that doesn't necessarily mean she's going to be a real friend here. And
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I kind of believe Ralph is. I'm starting to lean towards Ralph is definitely Mephisto. There's too many knowledges to that. There's also a thing with the going off just the Bible about the East View, and the fact that they had that numbering on their sheriff's plate, that 966 on the sheriff's plate, and saying that they're from Eastview. Lucifer, aka Mephisto in the comics, is over the East. And so that kind of crazy, just theatrical hinting, but we'll see what they actually do. I think that this is Wanda's magic taking over Westview. and that's why she only had like a certain radius that she could wipe everyone's memory of Westview. I think this has only really been going on for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I think from this time, I think what we figured out from us talking, this had to at least be like 4 weeks out from episode 4 is about 4 weeks out from everyone blipping back.
Right.
So this has only been this had to only been going on for about 3 weeks, maybe tops. But this is why everyone outside of Westview knows that there's Westview and something is going on, and that's kind of why they're all going at it. That's why they brought in Darcy and the astrophysicists and all these other scientists to figure out what is going on. The
It's
only
fun to hear again.
yeah, the only thing that's like weird about it is it seems like they've tried having people go in and they can't fully get in, but Monica was able to, and now Monica's powers when she's photon, she can change energy. So I'm wondering if that was either a nod to her, maybe she's got some latent abilities, or maybe her time in radiation, since they talked about the radiation inside that bubble gives her powers to be photon later. I'm not sure. I don't know how they're going to handle that, but that was just a random thought I had kind of rewatching it, because she was able to actually be in there for at least a good week to 2 week time period.
Yeah, they kind of. Oh,
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I was
Darius.
gonna say,
I did like. I did like. Speaking of Monica, I like how they built up some things that basically led to that theory. Apparently, she was an astronaut. Her mom built up a sword. I guess sometime after the Captain Marvel movie. Apparently, Monica has actually spent some time in space, accruing a good bit of experience, becoming Captain Monica Rambeau now. So we actually. Yeah, they actually built a hell of a lot within a very short time about her. And then we see the actual confrontation between her and Wanda, where Wanda realized what Monica says. Like, how the hell do you know about Pietro and Vision? Wait a minute, get out. And she actively kicks her out. And so apparently she's somebody that she can't completely control, which is probably going to become very handy as the show progresses. And then we finally see her become Spectrum or Photon.
One of them.
Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about something I definitely was excited to talk about that you just brought up was the whole Maria Monica Rambeau and sword element there. I I definitely I was excited from the very beginning. Of course, as we all were when we found out that Monica was going to be in this series, and yes, they did do a good job of putting a backstory to her character in such a short amount of time. I was totally pumped to see Sword headquarters, aka
I wonder why.
the Georgia World Congress Center, home to I think I know it's my favorite convention. Shout outs to MomoCon, but I know we all love MomoCon. But yeah, that whole entity, I'm excited that it exists. It's there, and it's going to be a thing now. And one parallel that I did pick up on when Monica is walking with the director into the large warehouse area was the fact that observation and response is part of their tenets. However, she pointed out that creation wasn't, and that reminded me of another captain when he was walking through another facility in Winter Soldier, talking about, okay, well, holding a gun to everybody's head with the Project Insight situation, so I like that little parallel there. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and actually, I did also like the fact that they changed the acronym from sentient worlds to sentient weapons,
Yeah.
which was a interesting sort of nod to say, which is it's an interesting thing that they're adding them into the mix, especially with the fact that Shield exists or existed. That they wouldn't have been the ones that would have been the people over the Avengers, because technically, if you think about it, actually, the Hulk is a sentient weapon, Thor is a sentient weapon. Like they are just that's the sort of like the purpose and existence of them overall. So that actually would be. It's very. I'd be interested to see how they are going forward and what they and what element they add.
I
To
want
answer Kevin's question real quick, the answer I believe is yes.
Yeah, I have a random tidbit on that too, just because I'm shocked no one's wrote it in the comments yet. But Shield fans have not been able to stop mentioning when they're theorizing this, because Tyler Hayward, now director of SWORD, shares a last name with Brian Hayward from Agents of Shield, who was a villain from Hydra, a super soldier created from the Centipede Project. Don't really think that there's a relation there, and I don't think that I don't really know how that's going to interact, but we've had some Agents of Shield trickle into the MCU. It's not completely out of the MCU, so I don't know how that's going to factor in, or if if Brian and Tyler are related in some way. But that's been a huge thing. I think that that's being done to throw us off of everything, though. So
You know what
Yeah,
is
we'll
wild though?
certainly see.
Thinking about what Kelly had said about Monica being the only one to get through the force field and pop back out. The beekeeper guy, he got in technically at the end of episode 1 or 2
or 4.
Well, yeah, it's both episodes. I mean, since it's
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah, time frame wise, yeah.
Technically, he got in. She rewound, and obviously, episode 4 is taking place over the span of the 3 episodes. But he got rewound, or she rewound. And where is he? Is he still in the town? Did she kick him out?
That's a good question.
Very good question.
Because he showed up before Monica got kicked out. I mean, before Monica got kicked out. So where's he at this whole time?
And not only that, but also something else to ponder on that same thing is that at the beginning of episode 4, when Monica is outside with Agent Wu and they're discussing about Westview, he's like, "Hey, listen," he's just like, "Don't you feel it too? Like, don't you feel like there is already, on top of the fact of the hexagon being actually enclosed, there's also a vibe that's being given out to everybody to say, don't come in." Now, that's not to say like Monica basically willingly was just like, no, I'm going to go ahead and try to test it. But by and large, I think part of the reason why no one else has gone in and why they've gone through drones and all that other stuff is basically because ultimately, I feel like most of the people that are outside of the bubble don't have the sort of the in a subtle way, they're sort of actually subliminally being told to stay out. So I think actually that's part of the reason why there isn't a, hey, let's go ahead and send an army in, and because the other thing obviously is they don't know what's in there. They haven't gotten any visuals, they haven't gotten anything. So there's a lot of caution. They send the one man to see if they can go ahead and get in. That person ends up disappearing to who knows where. So it is actually it's an interesting thing with the with Monica going in and what may result of that afterwards, and her being basically expelled out and then acknowledging this is Wanda, and at the end of the episode it really crystallizing that there doesn't seem to be something influencing Wanda as much as this is her. She's doing this like actively.
yeah.
I just feel like
It's all Wanda.
I do feel like at some juncture towards the end, just because I'm not theorize this with Leonard and Kelly at 5 o'clock in the morning because we're a little tired. I do feel like Doctor Strange is going to show up at some juncture.
Yeah.
Only because of the timeline of the events. Episode 4 is taking place 3 weeks, give or take, after the snap. Spider-Man Far From Home also takes place around that same time. And when Peter's being debriefed by Fury and Hill, and he says other heroes should be doing this, and he mentioned Doctor Strange's name, Hill says Doctor Strange is unavailable. If Wanda's using all this magic to create all this power around X, Y, and Z, the only person on Earth that would even have an inkling to it would be Strange.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like him being unavailable during Spider-Man means that he will pop up in this show some way, shape, or form to either stop Wanda, help Wanda. Granted, they haven't on screen, they haven't met, so he doesn't know her, but I'm sure they know of each other to an extent. I feel like Strange is gonna. That's my spoiler. That's my prediction.
Well, I mean,
Strange is gonna pop up at some point.
Yeah, every comic storyline that they've interwoven into this all involves Doctor Strange in some way. And if they're constantly giving these nods to that time that Vision was basically revived, Doctor Strange was integral in that. And I think that he's still going to be integral in the end of this. So if he's not severely hinted at, if not making an appearance, I would be shocked by the end of the series. But we'll have to see how this is going to play out because, from our last episode, I had a completely different idea of what's going on than I do now. Even though I still think Agent Franklin might still be the Grim Reaper, might still be one of the Williams brothers, and I still think the Williams brothers are involved. It's just, where I was solidly concrete on something, I'm now no longer concrete in it. And now it's just the matter of we need more. We need to figure out more and find out more and see if our theories are correct. This is one of the reasons why, we all enjoyed the movies, but the movies we walked out with a sense of pride and knowing what we did know, what we theorized and what we didn't theorize, versus now we have to wait because what we theorized this week is going to change in the next week.
That's true.
It's kind of thrown everybody, I think, through a loop. And
which is why I stand by the theory that it isn't Mephisto, because I feel like that's that even for the casual comic book enthusiast, I feel like putting that as the hey, here's the answer really just sort of does a disservice to anybody who's watching this, because it's exciting to see how they weave it together. But if you are watching it and you are just sort of like, oh, but I know the villain in the end is this guy. I know that's who it is. I know at the end that's exactly what it is. That's where I think there's a good, if they're doing this right, not to say that they that they don't turn around later and say, yep, that's exactly what it is. But I feel like subverting it would make a lot more sense. And again, I mean, taking a villain like Nightmare, for example, that is not a well-known, yes, it's been theorized, but having that be the villain, or just have it be where Wanda's the villain, ultimately. You could actually have it end that at the end of the day, Wanda is the villain. Wanda actually created her bubble. Similar to Franklin Richards when he created the Heroes Reborn universe, created their own bubble of, hey, this is my world, this is my sort of sandbox. There's a lot of elements and a lot of things, a lot of callbacks to that I find interesting. So a lot of, actually, for anybody who's watching who wants to sort of get a backstory on this, there's a huge catalog of WandaVision comic books that sort of cover this. And just to give you an idea of like where they may be going with it. Not to say that that's going to be the final answer, but it gives you at least somewhere where they're heading.
Yeah. Kevin mentions a comment about the agent named Franklin, because I was about to ask you. So I'm going to bring that up since commenters are also asking. That agent in the bee suit was Agent Franklin. Franklin as in Franklin Richards, which I know is a nod to that, but it leans credence to Wanda being the ultimate villain, at least at the end of this series. But I think, like, I know I said during our late night conversations from episode 4, I think that we're definitely in shades of gray here on who's going to be a villain. Things aren't going to be so black and white. It's not Thanos. Even though, we also had the discussion with Thanos because he had a reason for why he did the things he did. We just didn't agree with it. And that's, I think that that's going to ultimately be the case here with Wanda. Is it's going to fracture the Avengers. Another storyline that they've been using, Avengers, is it Declassified or
Disassembled?
Disassembled. There we go.
Yeah.
Dis- Using Avengers Disassembled. They're using bits and pieces from that storyline too. And if this is the case, it's going to fracture the Avengers even more than they've already been fractured since Civil War and Tony's death. And
Yeah, I
think
think.
it's
Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I think it's gonna happen.
Okay. Yeah, going. Josh just left a comment. Do you guys think there's a secret meaning in Vision telling Wanda they can go wherever they want, and her telling him, "No, we can't. This is our home." And I think this actually goes back to a few things that we mentioned. Um, One, I don't think they really can go because we discussed Vision probably not being able to leave the bubble. But it would have to be some interesting circumstances for him to exist basically as he was before Endgame outside the bubble normally, getting repaired, which is seems like a tall order. But I think that that's just I don't think there's a secret meaning, but I think that her being settled on Westview and the powers that be, whether it be her or someone manipulating her, basically says that they can't really do what they're doing anywhere else but where they are right now. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would be interesting if they have if this is shaping up to be where Wanda is ultimately the big bad of the next couple of phases, is to have it be where she is just power uncontrolled, and maybe actually her role in Doctor Strange is not so much a companion slash a buddy, hey, we're going on misadventures to the multiverse. Maybe this is more of a, hey, Doctor Strange is trying to fix where this person is basically just wrecking the multiverse and just doing havoc all over the place. I feel like that would be a very, very interesting direction to go in the movies, because it gives Marvel the ability also to one of the comments actually came in, which obviously is influenced by House of M, is you can go ahead and you have a set of movies you can do, and then at some point you can reset the clock and say, we're going to start all over again, scrap all the other ideas, and actually start with new characters. But that would also depend actually on the success of the movies going forward, because again, if you want to, it's from a overview from a Disney perspective, if you have a movie like Shang-Chi or a movie like The Eternals and they do gangbusters, Marvel's not going to want to reset those universes to go ahead and actually they're not going to want to do that. So this is it would lend itself well for a couple of years down the road. But it'll be interesting. I mean, I think it would be really cool if they made Wanda the big bad of the entire next phase.
I think that. Oh, go ahead, Darius.
I think that would kind of, although that would be nicely subversive, and there have been actually a couple of precedents in the comics where, besides Disassembled, I think there's been a couple others where she has basically either become the big bad or been extremely abused to the point where she just breaks and causes all kinds of things. In fact, I think honestly, she's like kind of one of the most abused characters I've ever seen in the Marvel Comics universe. Come to think of it, I've ever seen. It's like an animated character to a degree, but I'm not sure that would actually completely fly, considering that there are other big bads people really want to see take place. We just got the cosmic characters back and got a lot of the Fantastic Four characters back. So I think a lot of people are like wanting to see either Kang or Doctor Doom or a better version of Galactus fill that type of role better than Scarlet Witch. But for the short term, she would be a good idea. They already have flat out said that this show will not end the issue developed in the WandaVision show. It will not end here. It will take the next Doctor Strange film to solve it. That has already been declared by Feige himself. Um, so I wouldn't. Yeah, yeah. Basically, it's going to be like I guess a bridge phase, I guess, to another set of villains and everything. But uh, also, I think I've actually seen people kind of get upset at women being being a big bad as opposed to being a big good. I've actually seen people kind of make messages about that type of thing. Um, and I can kind of sort of understand it to a degree. But I think that Marvel will find a happy medium between the two, I guess, in a way. Um, but yeah, also, right now though, I'm I'm more stoked that we talked a little bit more about it. I'm more stoked that what possible heroes can develop from this. We've got Monica coming into her own. She's clear, and the actress who's I have. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I have a hard time remembering her first name. But
Tiana
Liz Payne.
Paris.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are you which actress?
The one playing Monica.
Yeah, Tiana Paris, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Tiana Parrish. Thank you. Um, I'm actually stoked by what she has pretty much said that you will see a lot more of her really coming into her own, really being developed and becoming a big character. She's apparently going to be a part of the second Captain Marvel alongside Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel. So this is going to be a good jumping off point to seeing her on those stories, on that story and everything. But yeah, as to where's the show itself, there are so many good theories, and I'm enjoying the fact that we really cannot figure out what the hell this is going on. We got small clues, but even we're like halfway in, and we really don't know. We have
Right.
absolutely no idea, and everything. And and I'm glad for a smart build to this show. It's it's a nice, it's one big X file to a degree.
Right.
Um, and I really, as opposed to an action fest where we're getting a cerebral fest. And so I'm going to guess the next episode will take place in the 80s. I'm betting that that's what we're going to see. We're going to see elements of the 80s look for Vision and Scarlet Witch. We've already seen glimpses of it, and they kind of do it up like a fake Halloween costume, more or less, when we've seen it. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the next episode now and seeing how these classic characters fit into it.
Yeah. Going back to where the conversation led into the beginning of your statement and what everybody's been talking about, I think that as far as one is concerned, much like in Civil War with the Wakanda incident, Wakandan consulate incident, I believe that she's a catalyst, and I believe that her actions, yeah, she may have some negative fallback from this, but I don't believe she's going to be the true antagonist for Phase 4 and maybe into Phase 5. But I believe that she does have these clearly negative actions that she's doing. It's not right to take over a town and to take over the people in it. And I think that all of this is going to have negative repercussions. And if Strange is involved, then he's going to have to find some way to stop her. So in that respect, she is a villain or a negative force. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think she's the big bad in Phase 4. I mean, I know we do have Kane confirmed for Ant-Man, so he's at least going to be there. I don't think they're going to go. I hope they go Doctor Doom as the big bad, for the next phase of movies or whatever case may be until the Avengers assemble again. I don't want to see another big, I do want to see Galactus. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to see another big destroy the universe type event. Just not quite yet. Let's make it a little bit more personal, a little bit more, home. But I do think at the end of it, it comes to find out that Wanda is the villain of this show that leads into, her destroying the multiverse or messing with the multiverse to a House of M type event that they can do in the MCU.
I'd be curious actually to see who everybody thinks the next phase big bad should be. Like my personal opinion is Kang. That's actually if you went from Thanos who was trying to destroy the universe, maybe the next step is somebody who is trying to take over time and timelines, which again in the comic books also sort of connects to Fantastic Four. Great introduction for that group. Me personally, Kang is my vote for the next big bad of the next phases. That's who I would go for.
Well, in Shang-Chi, the Mandarin is supposed to be involved, like the real Mandarin,
The real
not
one.
Iron Man
Yeah.
Mandarin. So there's a possibility there. I think that there's a lot of different stuff going on. I want to kind of revert back to something that Darius said, and I wound up writing in the comments because I didn't want to interrupt him. But did anybody notice Sword's colors? Because as we're talking about all these Fantastic Four big bads, the colors that also match Photon's original suit in the black, white, and blue also match a couple of astronauts we all know that are getting a movie at some point because they are in the lineup. And I'm wondering what Sword's involvement with them will be, or even what Wanda's involvement might be with them, with all of her energy that she.
Well,
Oh,
I
you
mean,
know what? Thinking about what Kelly just said in the beginning of the episode, director, whatever, I can't remember his last name, was
Hayward.
talking to Hayward, talking to Monica, and I guess she asked about astronauts, and they were saying that no one, everyone else that could do it got blipped, or they don't have the nerve. Basically, saying they don't have any astronauts to go up there, so that could tie into the Fantastic Four being, astronauts who are willing to go into space and then whatever happens with them in their movie, their origin, so to speak.
yeah, it would make sense, that being that Sword is a prolific spacefaring organization, and they specifically emphasized that, or at least Monica did, that creation wasn't a part of their original tenets. That in some mission that they create, they could send the Richards family, Richards / Grimm, family out there, and spark off the origin of the Fantastic Four, which could be cool, but we'll see. Yeah. So final thoughts. What anything else we didn't go over from our Facebook and YouTube family? You can spit it out right now. If anybody has any closing thoughts, you're welcome to put forward.
I'm just going to go ahead and throw this last off the wall theory. Phil, if anybody's Mephisto, it is definitely Phil with that mustache. It's definitely Phil. And if you want to even go into a sort of weird, sort of referential thing, their names are Jones, the Devil and Mrs. Jones. Bam, I'm done. That's it. Theory done.
There you go. I personally think these next two things also tie off. We've never seen anything for the 90s sitcom part. Now I'm wondering if that's going to be an X-Files episode, since Darius mentioned it's like the X-Files. It could be.
Feels like one.
Truth is out there.
They might. Hey, truth is out there. But yeah, so I have that theory because I don't know what 90s show they're going to reference. We know that it's probably going to be like Full House, Step by Step, like the late 80s sitcoms for this next episode with the 80s. But I'm excited to see what's going to happen, and I think we might get Photon out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. piggybacking on that, I actually think that I got that same X Files vibe, Scully and Mulder type feel when they were rolling up on the scene when Monica was rolling up on Agent Wu at the beginning and getting the breakdown. That definitely felt very X Files in the intro.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly I think they're going to stick with the sitcom genre because X Files would be outside of that. I think they're going to stick with the sitcom genre, throughout her manifestation of reality through the rest of the series, as long as it's, she's her reality is intact, which we know at some point the bubble's got to burst, right? So
Hexagons.
Yeah.
There was one thing that
Sure,
was interesting when they were writing the notes on the board. One of the things that they specifically asked, why is she doing sitcoms?
Yeah.
They specifically asked that,
I
and
think.
so okay.
I'm sorry.
What I
guys.
mean, and you think about her, Wanda in this case is like what, in her 20s maybe, and she's in a foreign country. She's born and raised in a foreign country. Why would she be thinking about American sitcoms from the 60s, 70s, and 80s?
Well, actually, I think
So-
I think Leonard covered that actually last week. It's that's when you're talking about foreign markets, their
Mhm.
exposure a lot of times to American culture is sitcoms and TV shows, and they get that's exported from here. So it's not far fetched to think that a 7, 10, 12-year-old Wanda was exposed to stuff like Leave It to Beaver or the Partridge Family and stuff like that, because again, that's exported, and actually usually a little further behind than what we're seeing. So it's not that far fetched that that's her exposure to it has been since early on.
yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I mean, we can talk about this for another half hour, make this 2 hours, but we're going to save a little bit for our next session, which will be in 2 weeks. So I want to thank everybody on our panel here for showing up and making it what it is. Great. And thank you guys for all of your feedback and interaction in the comments. We appreciate you guys, and we do this for you. So thank you guys very much, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Peace.
2 and 2.